In this video, we're going to generate a random number to be placed on top of the square sprite. And then we're going to go over the code associated with that. So to get a text on a sprite itself, we're going to select the sprite, so in this case our square sprite. We're going to right click, go to UI, and we're going to add a canvas. Now when you see the scene, the canvas is currently a screen space overlay, so it's overlaying the game view. We actually want to change this to world space. When you change it to world space, go ahead and go up and reset the rect transform. When you reset the position, it will automatically snap so that the square is in the center, because that canvas is a child or nested within the square. The canvas, however, is still rather large. The square has a width of 1 and a height of 1, whereas the canvas is 1920 by 1080, which was our original screen resolution. We're going to change this to 1 by 1. So now when you double click canvas, you can see that it outlines the square. Now we can go ahead and add the text. Right click on the new canvas, go down to UI, and let's select text. The text is placed at the center of the canvas, but as you can see, it's rather large. Let's go ahead and change new text to represent a number just so we get a feeling for the size. So let's go ahead and make that 0. We want the 0 to be centered both horizontally and vertically. Notice that the 0 is still large. So now let's adjust this size issue. Let's go ahead and reset this transform. And the width and height snap to 100 by 100. If we decrease them in size to be a 1-to-1 like we did with the canvas, you won't be able to see the 0 at all, because the font size for 14 is a lot bigger than 1 pixel. So instead of changing the width and height, let's go ahead and reset those. We're going to change the scale. So if we multiply the scale by the width, we want that to equal 1 for the width of our square and 1 for the height of our square. So 0.01, comma 0.01. Now when we zoom in, you can see the 0, but we need to adjust it for the size. Let's go ahead and try 90. There we go, now we can see the 0 clearly. Let's select our font and put it as the Chelsea Mark Group, which we imported in a previous video. And of course we're going to have to readjust the size now that we changed the font. And 75 will work for this. We don't need to worry about overflow right now since we're only ever going to have a single digit number appearing within our option. If we wanted to change the color, we could select the color and then pick a new color. Let's go with yellow. So you can see, going into our game view, that we have our square sprite and we have text associated with that. Just so we know, let's rename this text to be number, so we know that it is our number. So now we're going to go over generating a random number in that number text. So let's go ahead and go into our game manager. And at the start, we're going to have a new random number generated. Let's start off by making a new variable for this. It's going to be a private integer value, and let's just have this be an option num, standing for an option number. Eventually there will be 2 options, so we can have one named option 1 number and one be option 2 number, or left option number, or right option number. But for now, since we only have one option, we'll just create the variable option num. So within our start function, we're going to say that option num is going to be a random range. Now for this, we need it to be 1 less and 1 more than our question number. So we actually need this to be numbers 0 through 10. So that's going to be 0, 11. Close the parenthesis, and let's comment on this. So this generates a random number 0 through 10. Now that we have the random number set up, we also need to put that to the text. So again, we're going to create a text variable. It's going to be public since we're going to assign the text within the inspector. And we're going to say public text, and then let's just have this as option. So the variable option is a text, and we're going to say that that option is going to be a string value of whatever that option number is. So option num. Now before we save this, option num is an integer. It's actually not able to be a string. So we need to add a little bit to this line to make it a string. We can do that simply by opening and closing a quote, and then the addition sign meaning and, as we used up in the question posed. That way this number is seen as a string since it's already among a string value. Otherwise, we would get an error in the compiler because this option num is not actually a text. It's an integer. So we need to get the same type. And by placing these empty quotes, it's already reading the line as a string. So this option num is then read as a string as opposed to the integer. Go ahead and save that. So going back into Unity, if we were to run this, currently the text would still remain a 0. And that's because we do not actually have the number text associated with the script. So we're going to go into the game object, and let's go ahead and drag this game object up to the top right below main camera so that it's easy to see in our hierarchy. So going into game object, we now have an option text. So we're going to take that number and drag that number text in for our option. So now this number text is associated with that option text. Go back into Unity, go ahead and run the program. And you can see that it says pick a number less than 6, so 6 was generated randomly, and so was the number 1. As always, remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And in the next video in this series, we're going to actually take this square and everything nested within it, create a prefab so that we can add another square with all the work we've already done to the right side of our screen so that we have our two options.